All right, here we are. Here we are at Morning Star Community Christian Center's Life Study, live and in living color. I'm Pastor Therman Evans, and this is
Lady B.
And we are co-hosting this evening. We are co-hosting this evening on a very important and significant program. And it's a program, it's around a testimony, pandemic testimony. And you will hear from caregivers. And that is the focus of our program this evening. But as always, we begin by holding up our Bibles and we want you to put your finger in 1 Thessalonians and repeat these words after me. This is God's holy word. Receive it, believe it, and achieve it. All right. So, 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 15. It says, but always seek to do good for one another and for everyone. The word of God for the people of God. So we have a very interesting and a very powerful program for you this evening. And as I said, the focus is on caregiving. And many of you have had this experience to be the primary caregiver for a loved one, to be the primary caregiver for a family member. And those of you who have had that experience know the challenges therein. You know how challenging it is. You know the stresses of it. You know the strains of it. And this evening, I believe, will be very helpful to you as you hear from those who have had this experience. And as you hear their experience, I believe you will be blessed by what you hear, and you will be helped by what you hear. And those of you who have not had the experience, if you pay attention, if you take notes, this program will help you should you ever have that eventuality. So we want to begin. And let me say before we get started that if you have questions for ourselves or the panelists, we will ask you, as always, to line up in the chat room, and we'll take as many questions as we can through the course of the program. Or that is after the panelists have finished presenting, and then we'll go to the questions. But we ask you always to start lining up in the chat room with your questions before or as the questions come to you. So to start off our program this evening, we have with us one of our special guests is our sister Denise Washington, and she's one of our virtual members. She's a virtual member of Morning Star, and she resides in Maryland, the state of Maryland, and she worships with us, as I said, virtually. And she has her mother recently made her transition, and Denise was the primary caregiver for her mother. And she's going to recite to you her experience, or a summary of her experience. Obviously, she cannot give you the entirety of her experience over the course of the long period of time during which she was the caregiver, but she's going to give you the essence of her experience and some of her advice as a result of that experience. Please take notice as young sister Denise gives you now her experience as the primary caregiver for her mother, who recently made her transition just a couple of months ago. I believe it was, in fact, the month of April. Now, Denise also has the particular distinction of being the um, the only niece of my wife, um, and her mother, who made her transition, in fact, was the eldest sister of my wife. And so now let me ask Denise, can you unmute your microphone and camera and come to the screen and let us hear now the words of our young sister, Denise Washington.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share my story. Honestly, I was a little reluctant at first because it's so fresh, because my mom just died in February. But I've always felt now in my current situation that the only way to help others is to share your own personal stories. I think we've all grown up in a society where everything was to stay private, and you keep things in the house. So my mother would probably haunt me tonight because I'm allowing, everyone to know her story. I actually put it out on Facebook when she was sick as well because I needed that support system. But just to tell you a bit about my mom, she was an educator for over 30 years. She was a master teacher. She was a professor at Johns Hopkins University, teaching other teachers how to teach. She had 3 master's degrees. She spent her life at work and in church. She was a trustee. She was a financial secretary. She did all the programs. She walked a little bit. Did she eat the healthiest? No, but what I'm finding, that may help, but then that may not help. Eating is not always going to help your case. My mom had a lot of faith in God. Um, but one of the things that I can share with people, we can all have faith in God, but we're not exempt from anything. And she wasn't exempt from dementia. Uh, I got the call and the doctor said, I diagnosed your mom. She's been in the office. She's been a little, her memory suffering a little bit. She says, but your mom's still functional, but she has dementia. She said, I'm going to give her these meds for her to take, and hopefully they will help, her to sustain her life a little bit more. She gave my mom the medicine. My mom was stubborn. She didn't take that medicine. She threw it in the trash. So that didn't help. So she would just do different things. She would go to the bank, just make crazy withdrawals. People would call her on the phone and she would just give up her bank card information. So it just progressively got worse. And one thing about my mom, because she was a church going woman, she had to dress up. So she spent a lot of her money on church clothes, church hats. And she didn't save for this time in her life where she could have potentially gotten ill. And even when I would say, Mom, just in case, she didn't want to hear it because she had that faith in God that nothing was ever going to happen to her. But again, we have to be realistic that we're not exempt. With that, I had to then seek down and find my faith to then have to take care of my mom for as long as I could. So my story is from a different perspective because while she was as functional as she could be, and I could understand her case and take care of her as much as I could, I then had to find a facility to then put her in. The good thing with me is I had a good support system. Like it was stated, her sister, Lady B, my other aunt, BJ, and I'm sure she's probably on the line. Even Pastor, everybody would reach out to me, call me, you know, we would text every day, just kind of laugh and keep it lighthearted, tell stories, talk about my mom, the good parts about her, things that we could remember so that, I just wanted to kind of keep things light for myself because it got heavy. It got very heavy in the beginning, and where most people would probably have just really given up on their mom, where she doesn't remember me, she doesn't know what's going on. I wanted my mom to have the same quality of life no matter what happened with her. I was blessed with a really good job. So because my mom didn't have savings, And then the money that I tried to save for her, she spent it all. A lot of it just came on me. And I'm thankful to God that I was even able to listen. And a lot of it again was from Lady B saying, save, save, save. So that's one thing. If you have to save, save, save. I'm glad that I did that because I found her a very beautiful facility and I put her in there. And this was after like her driving and getting lost and just doing all kinds of things that I just, I could spend probably all day talking about that she would do. And at the end of the day, everybody would just say, well, your mom's still functioning. You know, she'd empty her bank account and they'd say, well, she's still functioning. And a lot of that is because she didn't want anybody to be her power of attorney because she was a prideful woman. So my hands were tied. So it was like just allowing, you know, my mom to just do whatever she just wanted to do. I just didn't have anything that I could do. But the only thing that I could do was keep my faith, meditate, pray. I changed my eating habits. I became my healthy self. I did some self-care so that I could then care for my mom, who to me became another child that I had to care for because she went backwards. Everything about her was starting over from the beginning. She was very combative. But again, had to keep my faith. I had to take her to church. I had to listen to her argue with me all the way to church and back. It's just some moments that I just tried to laugh about them so that I wouldn't become stressed and discouraged. Once she became what I call functional no more, finding a facility, because I knew I wasn't skilled to take care of her, finding a facility was hard as well. Because the prices of these facilities is really outrageous. And the first place that I put her in was very, very nice. Again, her sisters went with me. We loved the place, put my mom in there. She hated it. And I thought I was doing the best thing for her. I was trying to allow her to keep her same quality of life. She hated it. As a matter of fact, she escaped. And they called me and they said, your mom can't stay here unless she has 24-hour care. And I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? Or what does that look like? They were like, somebody has to stay with her the whole time. Well, again, that would take a skilled person because her dementia was just getting worse. So I'm like, okay, I just paid a security deposit. I just paid her first month's rent. You're telling me I have to pay for nursing for 30 days before I can find somewhere else for her to go. And they were like, yeah. It was like no big deal to them because they're like, if you don't have it, then I don't know what to tell you. And at that time, my mom could not live with me because I had to work. I was working 10, 12-hour days. I'm managing 100 and some people. And then I'm also managing my mom, who's just like managing a baby. But I found a nurse to care for her. I found a couple nurses and I just had to do what I had to do. Every time I go to the ATM, I'd be like, okay, Faith, can you pour some money out of here for 30 days? And God's faith was with me. And I was able to keep her there until I found her next facility. I took her to her next facility and the lady was like, okay, you just have to pay a community fee, which is the same as 1 month's rent. I said, but I just took her out of it. And she was like, well, that's my policy. And that was after looking around at several places. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to do what I have to do so I can put her here. Well, she didn't like that place either. She escaped that place too. They called me on the phone and like, your mom's running down the street. And I'm like, well, go get her. I'm paying you. You're the caregiver. Why are you calling me at work? They're like, we need you to help us with her. I said, well, tell her I'm on the phone. So they said, your daughter's on the phone. So she stopped in her tracks. I'm like, if you don't go back to that facility and if you don't act right, I'm not coming to see you today. She was like, really? You're not going to come see me? I said, no, I need you to act right. I said, I'm at work. I said, and I need you to act right. I said, I need you to help me help you. She finally turned around and she went back. But then her behavior was terrible. She was combative with the people that worked there. Next time, third facility. Had to find a new facility. And the lady said the same thing. Community fee plus her rent. So I told the lady, I don't have it, but I do have a problem where I don't have anywhere to put my mom. So she was compassionate enough to say, okay, I'll allow you to pay the community fee by, monthly. With that, COVID came. So I'm like, I was out of work. I can't continue to pay this to you. And then my mom's behavior even there became worse because the nurse that she really, really loved left. So one day I just happened to reach out to the nurse to find out where she was. And she says, I have my own facility. And I'm like, what? Why didn't you tell me? I said, my mom loves you. She was like, well, I have a spot. I was like, oh my God, this is God looking out for me and for me having that faith that I'm going to see this thing through. I said, because if I continue to do the right thing for my mom, and if I have faith, I'm good. That's all I needed to know, was that I was good and she was good. So I moved her in the midst of COVID, and she stayed there and she loved it. It wasn't the most lavish place, but it was a place that was familiar because the school where she worked for most of her life was right around the corner. So I don't know if she was familiar with the area. But when I took her there, she didn't know me. She thought I was Lady B. She thought my son was pastor. Um, it really hurt, but I was okay with that too, because I was like, she doesn't know me, but I'm gonna make sure that this lady in this shell of a body is well taken care of. Um, and it was okay. And the day that I walked out of there, that was the day when I mourned my mom, which was last year. So she could have continued to live, but I was okay with whatever was going to happen at that time, because the day that I walked out of there, I knew that I had done my best as a daughter. I knew that I had done the best that was in my control. Um, and I was well, and she was well. Once she got sick and she had to go into the hospital, um, I didn't know that was going to be her last time, because during COVID, I didn't get to see my mom. When my mom went into the hospital, I didn't get to see my mom. So I never saw my mom until that last day that I left her, and she thought that I was Lady B. Um, but whatever was familiar for her, that was okay with me. So a couple things that I can just tell people: just do your best for your parents and do the best that you can. Um, for any of those that may or may not get dementia, pay attention. We say that, oh, I'm forgetting this, I'm forgetting that. And if you know people around you and they're like, oh, I just forgot a little bit, see the signs. See the signs, pay attention to the signs, because they're there. And the person that has the dementia, they don't want to hear it. But you have to do what you can to get them the care that they need. A lot of us have to get our parents to save money, and if they can't save it, we need to save it. If we don't have it, we need to have some solutions set in place, because we never know what our situation is going to be. I just happen to be blessed with a great support system, and like I said, a great job. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have that, you know. It just would have been very, very difficult. And again, I meditated daily. I prayed daily. I communicated daily. I would laugh about her situations, although they were very sad, but laughter kept me going. I would exercise daily, because I was like, one thing that she's not going to do, she's not going to kill me in the process of her having this disease. Um, and that can happen. As a caregiver, if we don't take care of ourselves, we might be the ones that go first versus the person who has the sickness or the illness. But all we can do is comfort them. All we can do is be there for them. And all we can do is share, share, and share, and find that support. And everything will be okay. And like I said, I just tried to make things good for her and keep her life the same. I said, whatever happened to my credit, I didn't care, because I was going to keep hers good. I knew that she liked good credit, so I'm going to pay her bills. Even if somebody called and they say, oh, she has dementia, no, her bills are paid on time. So I made sure that I kept what I knew she would want her life to be until the end. And I'm good with it. I can also say it as well with my soul. When I buried her on in February, I was at the cemetery. We talked about good things. I cried a little bit, but I didn't cry because I was that sad. I cried, like I said, I mourned her the year before because I just felt like my mom was already gone.
Yeah.
But that was like the end of her even being on this earth. And, I just cherish the good memories. I cherish all the good memories. But when you're looking for someone, or if you have to care for your parents yourself, just make sure you make the right decisions. Fancy is not always good. Expensive is not always good. You have to find people that are very compassionate, and you have to find people that are very skilled and that they're able to take care of your loved ones, because that is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
And all I can say, and my last is save, save, save.
Mm, mm. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sister Denise. I know that was not easy for you, but you were certainly a blessing, and thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it, and we know that you were extremely helpful to many who are listening. So now we want to bring on our brother Kaleem Downing. Now, many of us are familiar with our brother Kaleem Downing. He is the husband of our sister Kelly, and he's a deacon at Morning Star Community Christian Center Church. And so, and his wife, Sister Kelly, made her transition a little while ago, and he, of course, was the primary caregiver. And it is he at this time who will share now from his experience as a caregiver. Please take note, take listen, and let's be blessed by his comments at this time. Brother Khalid.
Well, good evening, everyone. And I'd like to thank Pastor and Lady B for this platform, this time to share in my experience in being a caregiver. My experience of being a caregiver, goes, back, since, I guess 2016, first, dealing with Kai when he was a baby, and then it went straight from him to Kelly in 2017 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and everything. And my experience was definitely a rough road. And during my time, going through this experience and this time, I had many challenges. I had many breakdowns. Many outbursts and everything. It was definitely challenging. And what, I, continued to do during that time was, hold on to God, hold on to my faith. I prayed, and there were times where, I had outbursts because I just wasn't, doing things the right way, or I wasn't, I just feel like I wasn't doing what my best or what I could do to make her comfortable, during, certain times and everything. And I would get, so upset and everything. And at times I would have outbursts, but then I would turn around and drop down on my knees on the side of the bed and just, pray to God and, just ask him to continue to give me, the strength, just direct my path on what to do, how to do, and, just to make, things easier, just to make her comfortable as possible, because she dealt with a lot of pain, also going through, her, chemo and, just her whole experience. And, it was definitely a hard road. You know, because I remember, you know, just plenty of times, just, you know, trying to talk to her and, you know, just trying to get her to, you know, explain to me, or, you know, just tell me, you know, what she needed me to do to help her and everything. But when someone is dealing with, you know, a lot of pain and everything, it's hard for them to, you know, communicate and, you know, what they need, because, you know, I would, you know, touch her and, you know, that would hurt. So I'll be like, well, I can't touch you. I don't know what to do. And I want to help you, but I don't know what to do. It was just hard, you know, and at times when, you know, I couldn't be there, you know, her mom was there. If, you know, her sister was there, you know, in the hospital with her, when I couldn't be there. So I had help, you know, from her sister and her mom, and, you know, also from, you know, church family, you know, their prayers, they're reaching out, they're, you know, every, you know, thing that they, you know, did to help out, you know, it was good. And then during this time that we were, you know, going through this, you know, I was, you know, speaking to God, I was holding on to God, and, you know, God would, you know, speak to me. He would, you know, send messages and everything, and I would take that and hold on to it. And he would give me different examples, and, you know, I would take that and, you know, apply that to my everyday living. You know, my guide to kind of, you know, walk my, you know, way through what we was going through, and, you know, just, you know, being a caregiver is tough and it's challenging. You just gotta, and nobody always knows exactly what to do or how to do and which direction to go. It's like, you know, sometimes you're going through in it blind, and you kind of like learning as you're going. And, you know, that's kind of, you know, a little bit of what I was experiencing, because you know, I had no idea, and I was trying my best to do everything, you know, that I could, you know, to, you know, help her feel comfortable, to help her, you know, try to keep her spirits up. You know, if she wanted to move to a certain location, I would, you know, muster up all my strength and try to help her move, um, and everything. And then I just, you know, continue to pray. I noticed, you know, the changes as time, you know, went on. I didn't pay attention to all the signs that, you know, I came to mind after the fact, but there were, I would definitely, you know, like Sister Washington said, you got to pay attention to, you know, signs, different signs, or different changes that, you know, a person goes through, you know, to kind of, you know, lets you know, okay, where is this going? Or, you know, at that point in time, you can, you know, speak to, you know, the doctor, and he's like, well, I'm noticing this. What do we need to do? Or what is that? You know, explain to me, where is this heading? And it was just a rough road. But I would say, you know, I definitely held on to God. I definitely listened to, you know, the words that he sent. And it's like, during the time, you know, I always heard from, or a message always came from Job. And, you know, how he went through the things that he went through, but he still trust God. He still believed in God. And no matter what happened, you know, nothing changed him or wanted him to, you know, turn his back on God. And, you know, I kind of took the same took the same route. You know, I wasn't trying to do that at all. I wasn't going to let, you know, the devil, you know what I'm saying, upset me to where I wanted to be, you know, turn my back on God and everything. I said, no way, no way. You know, I said, you know, God has blessed me and our family all these years and continue to do it. So this one time that he doesn't answer prayers doesn't mean, you know, okay, turn your back on him, you know, and I wasn't going to do that, you know, and I did, and I'm still, you know, not going to do that. I still, you know, give God, you know, the praise, the honor, the glory and everything, no matter what, you know, no matter what the circumstances. And, you know, our circumstances change, you know, for our family, but God is still God. And God will definitely bring you through during, after, and in the future. Yeah, he will definitely be right there. You know, sometimes we may not feel him there, but he's there. You know, he just waiting or just want us to just let it go and let him, you know, whether he's close or whether he's far away. And, you know, that's one of the things that I was doing. I was like, okay, sometimes I didn't feel him there, but I'm giving it to him. You know, it's in your hands, God. You know, I don't feel you, but it's in your hands. And that's what, you know, I will continue to do. And up until, you know, the last, you know, around the last time when she passed, you know, it was still tough because, you know, I had to deal with the kids. You know, I had the kids, I had to bring them home and get them ready for school and stuff while, you know, saying she was in the hospital, and I just couldn't be in both places at the same time, even though I wanted to be in the hospital with her, but, you know, I just couldn't because I had the kids. But, you know, her sister stepped in, her mom stepped in, and then, you know, when the kids were out of school, we were there, we were with her, you know, all night and, you know, until, you know, late. And, you know, and we noticed all the changes. Like it was just hard to see and hard to take in. And I held back tears so I wouldn't cry in front of her and in front of the kids, you know, because, you know, I didn't want her to, you know, start thinking, you know, negative thoughts and stuff like that. I just wanted her to be in good spirits and know that, you know, saying God is God, and, you know, and believe that God can still do miracles, move miracles, whether you're on your deathbed or not. You know, God can still do it. And I believe that. And just because, you know, God has his own agenda, and we may not understand it, but, you know, is what you know, is what he has planned. So I would say to everybody, your faith is definitely important. You know, you gotta know when your strength comes from. You got to utilize the gifts that God, you know, gave us, you know, to help us through our trials and tribulations, you know, our, you know, heartbreaks and, you know, just painful things that we go through. And, you know that God is going to bring us out, and he's going to do exactly what he said he would do for everyone. And I thank him for it, and I will continue to thank God for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brother Khalid. And again, I know This was the recollection and the remembrance of some of these things is not easy for you, but you did it for us, and I appreciate the blessing you have been to others who are listening. So once again, we thank God for your courage. We thank God for the courage of Sister Washington. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you. And so now our third panelist is our co-host, Sister Lady B. She's the one sitting right here, so she does not have to unmute her microphone and camera. So we're just gonna turn it over to her.
Yeah, hello everyone, Morning Star, and the listening audience. I guess you guys have been wondering where I've been all this time. Well, I'm so choked up right now from these two other testimonies. I almost want to ask Pastor if we can cancel mine and do it another time. My niece's testimony, I couldn't go to my sister's funeral. I never thought in life that I would never go to my sister's funeral. It was the pandemic, COVID, and Pastor and I were going through a pandemic. Pastor and I have been married for 54 years. And if you remember the vows that we made, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, and what was the other one?
Well, you said the key ones right
The
there.
sickness and in health.
Yeah.
Well, for the past year, beginning July, I was diagnosed with an illness. And that illness shocked both of us. You know, we weren't expecting anything. I was feeling great. And so that was our personal pandemic, along with the other pandemic. But the other pandemic really worked out because we were quiet and we couldn't go anywhere. So all of the attention could go to my resting and my husband taking care of me. So from July of last year until this point, Pastor has been, I should be asking him what was it like to be a caretaker. He's never said. But he was my caretaker, and that was because the doctor said that I would need one eventually. But during this entire time from July until now, Pastor has been with me like 24 hours. When the doctor said I needed a caretaker, I started wondering, well, who would that be? Because I knew he was very busy. He had 2 jobs, and actually, I started wondering, well, what in the world would I eat? Because Pastor didn't cook. I did all those things. But when I tell you that he can throw down now, he decided to learn how to cook. He can be in a contest with anybody with macaroni and cheese, collard greens, cabbage. He would win the contest. He just did everything that a caretaker would need to do. We went to Morristown, we went to Hackensack. I mean, days on end, weeks on end. It never stopped until, and it's still going on, really. But I am feeling wonderful. He gave me all the attention that I needed. We would go to Morristown and Hackensack, and I think once his team was wondering where we were, the tech team, Morning Star tech team. Well, let me tell you, Pastor was not gonna neglect his church duties. He took the entire operation up to the hotel where we were staying. It had gotten to be so much that we had to start staying overnight. You know, it didn't make sense to drive an hour to Morristown and to Hackensack. I had to stay in Hackensack for 14 days, and I didn't see him for 14 days because I was in quarantine. But he took the entire operation up to Morristown, and you guys were saying, well, Pastor, where are you? And you know how Pastor is. He just started laughing. He wouldn't tell you where he was because I'm so secretive about everything. And I wanted to be able to tell you that I felt good. I knew that you'd be worried about me if I told you everything was going on. I'd had a dose of chemotherapy, and that's why my hair is just like this. And I was so vain, I guess, that because I always had a lot of hair, that I felt really, I didn't want anybody to see me. But Pastor kept saying, oh, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You can wear that hairdo. And last Sunday, you guys were saying, you look great. You look great. So that's why I just came on camera without a wig and a hat. Usually I wear a wig and a hat. But I feel so much better about myself because of all the praise and all that he just kept telling me during these 12 months so far. You are going to be fine. You are going to be fine. You are going to, every day he would say, you are going to be fine. I'm telling you, Pastor never complained. He quit. I guess the word is not quit, but he resigned from his second job so that he could be with me constantly. He was, as a matter of fact, today they had a Zoom conference where they honored him for being and starting this organization. He helps to start this organization 10 years ago. So they honored him today. And I mean, I didn't expect him to do all that, but he just volunteered to, the vows said for better or for worse. But, I know some people who were probably drunk. I know people myself who were saying, oh, I don't remember any of those vows. I was too high to even remember those vows. But we remembered those vows. And there's nothing that I wouldn't do for Pastor and that I haven't done for Pastor. And that's one of the reasons why I know that he loves me, and he's done 24 hours a day for me. I never thought it would be me who would be the one that would that I would have to be taken care of. But you never know in life. That's why it's good to be good and kind and loving. You never know who it's gonna be. I knew that God was with me, like my niece said. She prayed, and like Kaleem said, they prayed. And during this pandemic, I hope that those of you who had all of this time, and if you're listening to me, that means that you are alive and that God spared your life. I hope that you prayed and communicated with God. Some of you were worrying about music and we're not getting enough this, we're not getting enough that. But I believe sincerely within my heart that God gave those of us who are here now time to look at ourselves, to look at our families. Our family became closer. My sons were phenomenal, and other family members were phenomenal. But I was here in quarantine. I couldn't go out of my room. I couldn't use my husband's towels. I couldn't use his sheets. I couldn't use anything. And he had to wash clothes. I think you just started learning how to use the washing machine this year. I shouldn't have said that, I guess, but it's true. And that's okay, because I always took care of those kinds of things. Pastor was always working, trying to take care of the family. But my kids were wonderful. And I'm telling you, I hope we use this quarantine time, not quarantine, but pandemic time, to really look at ourselves, and we forgot about the parties and the good time and this and that, but that we spend some time with God. Like my niece said, spending time with God has blessed me. It has healed me. It has made me look at things so totally different. It has made me look at church different. I know now for sure that it's not in the building. It's in your heart. God's, if you're quiet, we need to be quiet, just relaxing, being quiet and just talking to God and listening to God. Sometimes we talk so much and we move around so much. I have spent my whole life doing and doing and doing and doing. So I think God said to me, you need to rest. You need to sit yourself down. And the only way I can do it is to make you do it. So I appreciate the time that I've had. I don't know if I've said everything that I wanted to say, but those first two testimonies really touched me. Kelly was very, very close to me. And my sister, I mean, we talked almost every day until the time when she didn't know who I was. And Denise, I know she thought I was you, but that was because she and I were closer in age and we spent a lot of time together. So she loved her children. She loved her grandchildren and she loved her family. And I'm just so sad that I wasn't there for her like I wanted to. I'm cracking up right now. But I love you guys and I pray that we will not complain so much. You know, my husband, my niece was the one who said, Uncle Therman did all of these things. Has anybody said he did a great job? You know, he was trying to work for the church, worried about people that were complaining and not happy. I don't know if you all were not happy with what was going on with the church or you just weren't happy with yourselves. I'm sorry to say that. But sometimes we need to look within and we need to find out why we're not so happy and why we're not so satisfied. And it's usually not other people. It's usually you need to look at yourself. And during this pandemic, we really had time. God set all of us down. And I pray that we use that time to look at ourselves and so that we can move ahead in a positive direction so that we can continue to be healed. I know I was healed because of what I put inside of my spirit. And I thank those of you who always prayed for Pastor and I, even though you didn't know what was going on. Many of you would text me and you would say, I'm praying for you and Pastor. That made me feel really good. I would just say thank you because I knew that that was what we needed. We needed prayer and positive thoughts. We don't need anything negative, and neither do you. It tears you down. It makes you look ugly. It makes you feel bad. And so I had the dose of chemotherapy, I'll just tell you. And this is what happened. This is what happened. And this is me. And I'm proud of me. I'm proud because I feel good. And God has given me a new body and a new life. And I think I need to be quiet because Pastor has had something to say. He never even said how he felt as a caregiver. All he did was just do, and encourage me. I mean, for all those months, he totally encouraged me. He never let me feel down or that I wasn't going to make it through. And be kind, like I said. And if you're ever in a position where you need people, you'll get that support. My whole family, my niece and my sister, they all came up and, you know, they cooked, they did all kinds of things. And my sister-in-law is coming in a week or so, and my sister-in-law is here, bring me food. So it's just been, it's been love. And I'm just so thankful for my husband. And it's in him to be good. It's not because he's a pastor, but he's a good pastor. And you all should really appreciate who he is because he will never let you down. I saw that really during this pandemic. You have no idea how much he loves his congregation and how much you should love him back. I think I'll be quiet. I love you guys. And I'm going to continue to get well. It's not over for me yet. There's some other things that I have to do, but I feel wonderful and hopefully soon we'll get together.
Well, let's again show some appreciation for our sister Lady B. We want to thank Sister Washington, Brother Downing, and now our Lady B. And I will say that with respect to myself, I took seriously the vows that said, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. I took those vows seriously, and plus that, I love her with all my heart, so that it was nothing to me to do what needed to be done. Yes, she's right. I didn't do a lot of cooking around here and a lot of washing of clothes. That was not, the role that we had carved out, for us, between us in our marriage. But there came a time when I had to, and I did it all. And so, and I'm really excited about what I've learned during the process. Was it stressful? Yes. Was it challenging? Yes. Was it difficult? Yes, mostly difficult because of what I saw her going through. Mostly difficult because many times you feel helpless, like you want to make it all go away, because you don't want her to be in. I don't want my loved one to be in pain. I don't want my wife to be sick. I don't want my wife to be concerned about whether she's going to live or die. And I'm feeling that, and so that many. There were many times when I would have to go away. By go away, I mean go to another room or go upstairs or go downstairs because I didn't want her to see me down. Always in front of her, I say everything's going to be fine. We're going to trust God, and you're going to be fine. And as a physician, there were many times, when the doctors or the nurse would say something to her, and I was always there. And then when we would leave, she would say, "Well, what does that mean?" And I, having more knowledge than the average person about what they were talking about, sometimes it was difficult for me, to continue to be encouraging to her, but we always put the positive spin on everything. And I've learned through it all that God is awesome. It's not something I didn't know at first, but I'm even more convinced than ever. And one of the things we decided or determined to do from the beginning is that we would not miss, and we would not drag down the congregation with what it is that we were going through. And I got to tell you, it was extremely difficult and challenging and stressful, extremely, because of nobody is closer to me than she is, and to have her go through this was just overwhelming. And yet it is only with God's help. It is only by the goodness and by the grace and by the mercy of God that I was able to continue to give the lessons and to do the Bible studies or host the programs. It was only by the goodness and grace and mercy of God that I was able to attend to funerals, do eulogies at funerals. We did the very best we could throughout all to attend to those who were feeling distraught and stressed out about ministry, who wanted to give up. I had to attend to all of that while attending to, my number one priority here on earth. And yet, and we did it by trusting God. We did it through and by our faith in God, and without burdening anyone else with what it is that we were going through. We made a conscious decision to do the best we could for this whole past year, and to do it with God's help, because that's the only way we could do it. And here we are, and here we are, and here we are, and here we are. Now we give God praise for bringing us through. We give God thanks. We give God glory. We give God honor for bringing us through to this point, and to her back to her health and well-being. And as she said, the journey continues, but we are so very blessed and joyous, because we know that the worst and the hardest part of the challenges is behind us. And we're thankful to God for that. So with that, and what we're going to see now is whether or not there are any comments or questions, maybe from our listening audience or viewing audience. You've heard from Sister Denise Washington, who was the primary caregiver for her mother during her illness and eventual transition. You heard from Brother Kaleem Downing, who was the primary caregiver for his wife, Sister Kelly, during her illness and eventually her transition. You've heard from Lady B, who has chronicled what she's been going through in summary form over this past year. And I've given you a few comments and feedback on what it is we've experienced as well. So maybe there are some of you that have some questions or comments, something that we can be helpful with, something that we can explain further, or something that you might want to hear a little bit more about. We'll see if we can take a question or two. So let's go to Brother Terry and see if there is anybody in the chat room that has a comment or a question that we might be helpful with.
Okay, Pastor and Lady B. First of all, there are a whole lot of comments, but I'll give you the question first, Pastor, and it's directed to you.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor, what lessons did you learn or experience as a caregiver?
Let's see. Well, I guess I would say this. That it's hard. It's hard. I'm not gonna make any what's the expression? Make any bones about it, or I'm not gonna try to make it less than what it is. It's hard. It's hard, and it's hard. I think, and in my experience, it's hard because you feel so helpless. You feel so helpless. You feel so helpless. The last thing on earth you want is for someone you love to be in pain, for someone you love to be sick, for someone you love to be concerned about, whether or not, their life is going to be cut short or taken from them, or crippled or compromised somehow. That's the last thing you want, and the biggest thing you want, and the highest priority you want is for that to go away. So when 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says, "Pray without ceasing," that scripture, I think I lived since last July, literally, constantly, not a moment. When I was in the kitchen cooking collard greens, I'm praying for her. I'm in the kitchen cooking cabbage, and I'm praying for her. So constantly praying. God, I know that you're a God of healing, and I know you can do this. I know you can do this. I know you can do this, and I believe you will. But the thing that was most challenging is the feeling of helplessness, the feeling that I want to make this go away. I want this to not be, and I keep praying to that end. And that feeling of helplessness that's not a pleasant feeling at all. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling. It's a heavy feeling. But, you know, I couldn't go around it, couldn't go under it, couldn't go over it. I had to go through it. And I could only do that, but with God's help. And I learned that God will get you through. God will bring you through. Because even as we were going through, even in those moments of difficulty, even in those moments when I stepped away, and every night just about, you know, when I stepped away, you know, she doesn't know this, but even in the nights when I stepped away, you know, and would turn in, I'd be crying myself to sleep. But God got us through. And I know that God will do that, and He'll do this. If He did it for us, He'll do it for you. And so that expect the feeling of helplessness, but just know that in those moments when you're feeling helpless, that's probably when God is doing His best work. That's probably when God is doing His greatest work. And as we sit here now, you know, I have nothing but praise and honor, you know, and glory for God, because it's because, you know, I think she's, you know, more beautiful than ever, and we're so grateful and thankful. I don't know if I answered the question, but I just kind of tried to recite my experience a bit. So you think
That's good.
Oh, okay. Any next question, brother Terry.
I think that wraps it up, Pastor. Just a lot of comments, praying for you, love you, Lady B, you're beautiful. Yeah, just a lot of comments. More comments and encouragement tonight, rather than questions. Yeah, just kind of, we love you, we miss you. God's gonna see you through. Thanks for sharing your testimony. I'm strengthened through your testimony. Yeah, so yeah, that's what we're loaded with tonight, Pastor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lady B, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Then what we'll do is 30 seconds apiece. Sister Washington, closing comment. Brother Downing, closing comment. 30 seconds now. 30 seconds now. Not this 30 seconds is not like your previous 30 seconds. All right. So, Sister Denise, anything you want to leave the our listening audience with?
30 seconds. I just appreciate, you know, you guys having me on the panel. And not for me, but I've told my Lady B this before. Very proud of you for sharing your story. And you know what I mean by that. I love you both.
Thank you. We love you too. We love you too. Brother Kaleem, 30 seconds. Anything you want to leave our listening audience with in closing?
Well, I just like to say that just God's grace is sufficient, and you know, He will never steer you wrong. So whenever you find yourself in situations as we have gone through, the only place, the best place, is to call on God, ask Him to take me by my hand and lead me on, and you know, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Well,
Lady B?
I want to thank my niece for making me open up about everything. She consistently said you could help somebody if you do that. And she knows that I'm very private, but I would like to say that we should spend our time being positive, spend our time forgiving, spend our time not talking so much, but listening to God. Spend time praying and doing something for somebody else. Make sure you get close to your family. I thank God for the closeness that I have with my husband and my kids. They never left me alone. Sometimes I wish they would, but they just stayed right there, for my every need, 24/7. I appreciate that. Um, if you need to call me, you can call me now. I won't say I'm fine. Usually I just say I'm fine because I didn't want you to feel bad or to worry about me. So if you have any questions, you can call me and we can chat. And it's good to have people in your life. Nothing like good people in your life. That's all I have to say for now.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening and viewing this program this evening on caregivers. Caregivers. And let us not forget, now try to remember, the point of this program is to remember, if you know of a caregiver, if you
Right.
know of someone who is caring for a loved one that is experiencing a very serious and or an extended chronic illness, please reach out to them. That is the caregiver. Reach out to them. Give them an encouraging word. Offer them some assistance. Offer them your prayers. Just know that it is not easy to be a caregiver. It is extremely stressful. And oftentimes, the role of the caregiver and the health and well-being of the caregiver goes unaddressed, and they can pay a price for that. So do remember, if you are aware of caregivers, try to keep them in your prayers, keep them in your heart, and you can be helpful to them as well. And then they can be even more helpful to the one for whom they are caring. With that, we look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning for our worship service at 9:30. And we thank you so much for being with us. We thank this evening, and we thank those of you who helped us to unload and organize the food baskets today. And remember that we are distributing the food on Saturday morning at 8:30. So if you can come out and volunteer and help us distribute baskets to our community, please do so. And so once again, we want you, as always, we say, be safe, be strong, be healthy, and be blessed.